my purposes happened at, well, have you ever had an experience called an epiphany?
Yeah, many. Can you tell me some of the kind of values that they're talking about when it comes to investing?
Sure. Freedom, right? Freedom
Yeah,
is one of the main core value for me. It's my number one core value is freedom. Health is another one. So if someone selects health and well-being, when you make a positive difference in other people's lives, you simply cannot go wrong. So I've made over $1 million in 3 different asset classes. Business is one, equities are another, and also real estate.
welcome to today's episode of Free to Lead, Journeys of Leaders, driven by passion, inspired by purpose. And today I'm joined by Jaden Sterling, founder and CEO of Sterling Stock Picker, an award-winning platform that's changing the way everyday people invest. With experience at Merrill Lynch and Citigroup, Jaden took Wall Street know-how and built a system that now outperforms sector averages by 150%. What's his mission? To help regular investors align their money with purpose, power, and confidence. Jaden, welcome to Free to Lead.
Hey, Will, thanks so much for having me. Nice to be here.
How long have you been running your current business then? Sterling Stock Picker, if you like.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to answer that question, but let's go back to, since this show is so rooted in purpose and passion,
Yeah.
my very beginning understanding around what my purpose is happened at 14. And Will, have you ever had an experience called an epiphany?
Yeah, many.
Okay, so you know what that's like, right? Where it's kind of
Yeah.
like, for me, time stood still and I just knew deep inside 3 very significant things. And it was a morning. I was in my mom's townhome. I came down the stairs and there was this big boom box on her dining room table. Remember back in the day, the boom boxes and the
Yeah.
played the cassettes, and you had to rewind the cassettes with the pencils. And a lot of our listeners may not have a clue what we're talking about, but I found myself transfixed. And it was strange because it was a cassette playing, but no one was in the house. It was the weirdest thing. And it was, you probably know this guy, Wayne Dyer.
Yes. Yes.
So he's speaking, and I stop in front. I've never heard the guy stop in front of this boom box, and I'm 14 years old, right? I'm like just a kid, and I had this moment that I understood 3 things very clearly. Looking back, I don't know if I was told it or I understood it, but I felt it deep inside. And the first thing was that I would be teaching about money on stages around the world. And the second thing I was told was that I would be helping people be financially empowered, not enslaved by money. And the third thing that I knew very clearly was that I'd be teaching from personal experience, not from a book I read or course that I took. So you can imagine, like at 14, your whole life purpose is downloaded to you, and Will, I just followed it. I went to school at American University, studied finance, went to work on Wall Street during the 90s, the entire decade, learned everything I could about money. And the thing is, I learned from my wealthy clients. That's where I got my real money education. It wasn't from the brokerage firms. It was from my multi-millionaire clients. And back then in the 90s, that was a lot of money. So I learned a lot. And a couple of things that really stand out for our audience is that diversification is a myth. The true way to build real wealth is having a concentrated, focused approach. I mean, that in business. Will, if I were to say to you, look, I'm going to give you 100 new products to sell tomorrow, you'd be like, what? Are you crazy? I do one thing and I do it well, right? Or maybe 2 things, but you're not all over the board. And that's how people invest. They invest in these packaged products called mutual funds. Everyone's got them. And they're in 150 to 200 different stocks. And they constantly only give like average returns. And when you're talking about having real financial freedom, you've got to be able to achieve a much greater rate of return. And that's what we situated and structured our software on is helping new investors, and frankly, all kinds of investors from across the board, whether you're new or expert level, to find winning stocks in 2 clicks or less. That was what we set out to do going 8 years ago now. Wow, it just feels like yesterday. But we've built my mentorship around, because I've been mentoring on money for decades now. And one of my students about 10 years ago said, "Man, I love what you're teaching me, but could you create software around it?" And I was like, "I don't know, maybe, I'm not a developer." But long story short, one of my students came to me, and he is a developer, and he's got a partner who's a developer. And they said, "Hey, we're a little slow right now. Do you have any projects that you're working on?" I said, "Well, come to think of it, I do actually." And I shared my vision with him. I shared my passion, and he got back to me the next day, and he said, "We're in." So, fast forward 8 years later, we've raised $750,000 for the platform from the investors who use the platform. And we have 2,500 users on the regular basis. So we'll probably do some, maybe I'm jumping ahead, but I'm looking at some type of exit strategy in 5 years on probably a tokenized exchange.
So you've not been at the software for 8 years then? You've been, or have you?
Yeah, software we developed 8 years ago. We took 18 months to beta test it,
Right.
And then from there we launched it, and now we're a global platform and have customers and stocks in 12 different countries around the world.
So people go on the platform, I haven't seen it, the actual, opened it up and looked at it myself. So people go on there and they say, "Oh, I've heard about this stock," or do they say, "Tell me some stocks I should invest in"? I mean, how does it work?
Yeah, great question. We start with determining someone's risk level. And, we really believe in the importance of that to align with investments that are within your risk level. And then we're probably the only platform that does this. We then have our subscribers use our value-based investing system. So from 33 different personal values, they select their top 5, and then the software brings them stocks that are in alignment with their risk level and their personal values. But there's more to it, because we've come up with a system that we call our North Star ranking, which evaluates the financials of a company, the financial health of a company, the fundamentals, and then the technical indicators. And once a stock has our coveted 5-star ranking, that's a strong buy in our system, and clients and customers can feel comfortable with those. In fact, you quoted our returns above the sector averages. Those aren't just the returns of our stocks for the previous 12 months. This is
Right.
above the sector. So we're crushing it. We're crushing it. And it took us a long time to get here, or it feels like a long time, but you've probably heard people say it takes 8 years to become an overnight success.
Yeah. Or more.
So we're there.
Yeah.
We're in our 8th year.
Right. Great.
Yeah.
Great. So when it says that 150%, obviously you can't guarantee. There's always that, blurb about we can't guarantee you've got money to invest, then you also got to be where you could lose it, etc. But you're telling me that someone comes along and they put $10,000 into your system, they're going to end up with $15,000 in 12 months. That's what you're producing at the moment.
Well, that has been, so we track our previous 12-month return, and
Yeah.
obviously it's always fluctuating and changing. It could be more, it could be less. We don't
Yeah.
give any guarantees. What we do guarantee is that you will be selecting stocks that are in alignment with your risk tolerance level, in alignment with your personal values. And we've done all of the work behind the scenes with our algorithms to select the very best companies in the world for you. And, I started off talking about diversification and how important it is to be focused. So what we've done is we've overlaid what we call our portfolio assistant in the software, which guides people to buy stocks, 6 to 8 different companies within the platform. So if someone comes and says, "All right, well, I know my risk level, I know my personal values, now what?" Right? So they just input the amount of cash they have available to invest, or the stocks that they currently own. and the system will recommend either reducing certain positions or buying certain companies. So we've taken the guesswork out. We've made it as easy as we can for our subscribers.
Great. And can you tell me some of the kind of values that they're talking about when it comes to investing?
Sure.
So what do you mean? You obviously mean, I mean,
Freedom, right? Freedom
yeah,
is one of the main core value for me. It's my number one core value is freedom.
right,
Health is another one. So if someone selects health and well-being, obviously we're not going to show them McDonald's stock or Coca-Cola. It's really going to
right.
be companies in alignment with that personal value. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Well, that's that. I was thinking that, but I wanted to just get clarified, right? So
Yeah.
because one of my clients is does reforestry, right? So rejuvenate
Nice.
forestry with all this, and it's just like it's wonderful to be coaching someone who's up to that, really up to something in the world and makes a difference and the challenges that they have. And so, there's values there if they're not public. It's not a public company. Do you know what I mean? But if it was, that'd be the sort of one that would fit my values because it's doing something good for the planet. It's doing something, that's making a difference.
That's exactly right. So if someone were to select that, obviously we wouldn't show them any forestry companies like tech or any oil and gas companies either. We're
Yeah.
going to only show them companies that are probably B for benefit corporations. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but that's an
No,
actual
no, yeah.
okay, an actual tax classification of companies in the United States called for benefit that mean that they have to take their purpose it has to be top notch purpose. They have to care for their employees, like take good care of them and really focus on their customer service. And there's not a lot of companies that are for benefit companies, but these are some of the best in the world that would be in alignment with what you're describing.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. And and a lot of the guys, I would say, I mean, I might get this wrong. Everybody listening might not be this, right? But I've noticed that the guys I'm speaking to are like in the mid 30s, let's say, around that age, want to be doing something that has an impact in the world. They don't want to be just making money or turning out widgets. I got another, he's not a client, but he's a friend of mine, and he's sold all his business and he went into an alternative to cod liver oil, of all things, right? Where they got seaweed and they grow this seaweed and then they use this seaweed and they spin that down versus all, these big nets catching all the fish, put them in a big spinner and spinning the oil out. This stuff is as nutrition,
Yeah,
just as good and it's great. So they're loving what they're doing.
brilliant.
Really excited by it and empowered by it. So I can see how the value side of it could inspire people to let's invest in that.
When I was 18, I had the privilege and opportunity to go hear a Zig Ziglar speak.
Oh,
Remember
great.
Zig?
I know of him. I've never been to one of his things or anything like that.
I was mesmerized by Zig Ziglar. And I remember on Bended Knee, he said, if you help enough other people get what they want, you will get what you want.
Mm.
And, so here I am, a young guy, 18 years old, hearing this message, and it stuck with me. It really spoke to me. And I think what you're describing is that exact formula. When someone reaches for a purpose that's really going to make an impact with people, make a huge difference. You're talking an extension where that it's going to save the oceans because they're not, right now with this type of dredging and netting they do for even catching krill to get the oil.
Yeah.
His method sounds amazing. So when you make a positive difference in other people's lives, you simply cannot go wrong. I know this from personal experience. I've made over $1 million in 3 different asset classes. Business is one, equities are another, and also real estate. And my focus was always in providing quality, affordable housing for people. And that
Yeah.
was my main focus. I was like, I moved to a community in Florida. There was no quality, affordable housing. And I looked around and I said, I'm going to change that. I'm going to make a difference here. And I did 100, looking back, it's like, it was a lot of work, 125 projects in that city over 8 years, just focused on providing good quality, affordable housing downtown. And it was amazing, the results from that. So we know the formula works, right? When you're really focused on making a positive difference for other people, you'll get all your needs taken care of. You don't have to think about it.
Very good. Love it. Love it. All right, good. Well, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Well, 5 years is my exit strategy. Not that I'm going to retire, because I love what I do and I always want to keep doing what I'm doing, but I want to scale back a bit more. Want to be, I'm in Canada right now. My wife is up here. We realized our relationship works better when we live in the same country. So I think I'm going to end up buying some more real estate on the Eastern Shore in the United States, be closer to some family members, and just travel back and forth between Canada and the US. Things like that. There's a big world to explore. I know you're out traveling now and speaking at conferences, at your own conference, which is awesome. I've done a lot of that, 30 years of that. So I may not do too much more of that, but my mentorship will come through our platform because it's near and dear to my heart. And, we'll have some type of exit strategy to pay back our investors. Tenfold of what they invested is my objective for them. And, after that, we'll see what happens.
It's not like you invented a software thing. Yes, you did, but it didn't start there, right? It started with your passion for investing and making money and being able to coach and teach other people in making money. In that software journey, I don't know, what have you discovered in that whole journey? Like turning your knowledge into software, if you like.
You mean what have I discovered personally, or through the
Or
process?
about doing that, or you've done it in particular thing in investing, right? I get approached all the time for people to do. We want to do a course. Can you do a course? And we're going to put that online and did that. But it's not quite the same as what you've done, right? You've actually put it into a working thing that people can come along to, and basically they get all your knowledge because it's all somehow in the system, right? And they just go, well, I want this, and you ask them these questions. Well, we suggest this and we suggest that. Oh, great, boom. It's almost like they've hired your brain, but also I don't know if you're using AI, but also, like that. So I don't know. It's like, what have you learned about that? What has that taught you, or what have you discovered from doing that process, I suppose?
A lot. I've discovered a lot. I've discovered the most important feature of any software is listening to your customers. We can, as creators, business owners, we can have an idea in our mind of what we think people want. But the reality is, people are going to guide you every step of the way. And that's exactly what happened with our program, with our software. And that's why we beta tested it for so long, because we wanted that feedback. We wanted to hear from our users, what features do you like? What do you need that we don't have? And so we're constantly iterating our product. And I mean, just right now, we're working so hard behind the scenes to create what we're calling a frequent trader program. And because our users we've listened to our users who have said, hey, I love your software, and I'm a buy and hold kind of investor, but if I were to be a little more active in my trading, what could that look like for me? And so that's what we're stepping into next is, well, we're deep in it, knee deep in it, creating that part of the software which will allow investors to be more active. They'll be on calls with me every single week and basically letting them know what I'm currently buying, as well as option contracts, because that has been a huge part of our returns that we get for our clients is investing in options, and in a safe way, because it's a little complicated and people tend to not understand it. But we just make it easy to understand. I've always thought that was my superpower, is taking complicated things and making them simple.
Very good. Great. Wonderful. Good. All right, great. Well, how will people find out about your platform, or you, if they want to reach out to you, how do they find out about it?
Yeah, well, I'm sterlingstockpicker.com, Sterling like sterling silver. Sterlingstockpicker.com is where I'm located, where I live. where I'm
Yes.
at every single day. And yeah,
Yeah.
I'd love to have your folks reach out to us, and we'll get you a link. When you share it, we'll give you your listeners 30% off the platform. I mean, it's already inexpensive. We kept it low so
Yes.
that people feel comfortable joining, but it takes that $30 monthly fee down to $21 a month.
Right. So that's the fee to use the platform. And then how much would they need to invest for it to be worth their while? What, like $1,000, $10,000? I mean,
Yeah, they can start with start with where they are. Start right, like just start. In fact, I just got an email this morning from someone who said, "Thank you so much for your platform. I started with $5,000. It's now grown to over 6,000 in 40 days."
right.
So for her, that's over 20% rate of return in 40
Yeah.
days, which is
Yeah.
pretty. So yeah.
Fantastic. It's like 1% a day.
Yep, you're right. Almost.
Yeah. Great. All right, great. Awesome. 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 It's been great having you on the show. Thanks for being on the show, Jaden.
My pleasure, Will. Thank you. And yeah, look forward to hearing from your audience, and we'll take good care of them.
Thank you.